Grandma's polenta. This whole show is dedicated to my grandma Adele. In the old days when I was a little boy, we used to make polenta together. Polenta is nothing more than cornmeal cooked in water. In the old days, there was no instant polenta, and the polenta had to be stirred over the fire over a long period of time. Now, in 15 minutes, you get it done. Here's what it looks like once it's done, as you can see. Nice and soft, perfectly finished. Grandma had a few tricks up her sleeve. To this polenta, once it's done, what we take is some mascarpone that we add to the polenta just like this, and plenty of cheese. And I like to do it the way Grandma used to do it, using her hands. Then still using the wooden spoon, you mix it in together. Ah, this is wonderful, fantastic. It makes it creamy, it makes it smooth. It adds a texture to it, which really takes this polenta to the next level. I'm going to show you two ways of handling this polenta. One way is to basically serve it right out of the pan. The other one instead is to pour the polenta into an awaiting vessel next to me. What I've done in this vessel, in spite of the fact it's non-stick, I coat it with a little bit of olive oil. If at home you use something that's made of a different material that is not non-stick, make sure that you coat it with olive oil. This way the polenta will not stick when we unmold it later. We pour it in just like this. We're going to let this cool and take shape, and then I'll show you exactly what to do with it. Spicy, just right. Hey Russ, how you doing?
Hey Nick, how are you?
Always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you as well.
I need some chuck. I'm making some beef stew today.
Sounds good.
You got something to show me?
I do.
Why do I like the chuck so much? You always tell me to get the chuck. What's the big deal about
Chuck
it?
is a large muscle out of the front shoulder of the animal.
Yeah.
It's a nice, well-worked muscle, as you can imagine. Big front leg, a lot of movement there. And it's got really nice fat marbling through it.
Well,
And
yours always does. I mean, you
Yeah.
always go for the best. But let me ask you this. If I didn't want to do chuck next time, for example, what would you propose I ask you?
another really nice stewing muscle is the brisket.
Brisket?
Yeah, brisket. It runs the whole chest plate of the animal. It's got nice fat content, nice texture
The
to
same
it.
brisket that I barbecue, like
Yep.
when I smoke it, the same cut?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, delicious.
And that takes a really
It
long
takes a
braising
little
time?
longer than the chuck, but it's well
The
worth
flavor.
it. Yeah.
What else would you propose? Let's say something unusual, something like totally off the
I
top.
personally love the neck.
Come on, the
Yeah.
neck.
We get whole animals, and the neck is the best stewing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I love talking to you. You always give us good idea. For today, let me have the chuck. I'll take 4 pounds, and I'll come back later into the week because I want to try some things. I want to go for the neck next time.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, Nick shows us how to prepare Grandma's beef stew.
Grandma's beef stew. This is a very simple dish, and from now on, especially in the colder months of the year, I guarantee you this will become one of your favorite ones. For me, this is like a trip down memory lane. Let me walk you step by step through this because it was one of the first dishes I had the honor to prepare with my grandmother. And she told me, Nicolino, sei bravo, which means, Nick, you're good. I like to believe she was right. Beef stew. It's the least attractive cut in terms of pieces. It has to cook for a long time in order to be beautiful. But before you cook it, you need to do something quite important. A good amount of salt, a good amount of pepper, and then using a spatula, I like for all these pieces to mingle nicely and well together. In the pot next to me, already on the stove, I have already placed extra light olive oil. The reason why I've used extra light olive oil is because it can really take high temperatures without burning. The next thing that we want to do to make sure that everything flows well is to actually add a little bit of flour. The flour is going to do two things. It's going to help the meat create a crust, and this crust will ensure that the meat will brown on the outside, maintaining all the juices on the inside. The flavor of this dish is going to come from a long preparation, which is mostly a braising technique. We're pretty much done with this. Let's see if the pan is hot enough. The way in which I usually judge it is by taking a little bit of flour and adding it to it. And you can see by the way the flour is moving that the pan wants to go. She's telling us, give me the meat, and here it is. Now you want to cook this for a few minutes. I would say 3 to 4 minutes. You don't want to cook the meat all the way through. What you want to do at this point, primarily, is to make sure that the meat browns evenly on all sides. That's exactly what we wanted to do. At this point, we're ready to take the meat out. So what I'm going to do, using a slotted spoon, I'm going to move the meat to a waiting vessel right in here. Now I want to continue our cooking right into this pan. Why? There's an enormous amount of juices that the meat has leaked out that have stuck to the bottom of the pan that are incorporated in the oil that's left behind. And I want to use these juices to even give more flavor. When you look at it, you'll notice that there is oil left over, but it's not enough. Always add a little bit more. Extra light olive oil is the way in which I want to go. The next addition of what I'm about to make is not part of my grandma's original recipe, but she would forgive me when I did it for her because she knew that I was Sicilian and she would allow me to put red pepper flakes. I put them at this stage because I want them to infuse into the oil and to give it a wonderful spiciness to it. And then we proceed with the mirepoix. Celery, carrots, onion. When you make it at home, depending how fancy schmancy you want to be, you can cut it in the pieces that I have, or you can chop them even finer. You can almost mince them. Nothing wrong with that. This, I do it because I just felt like it. Once they start picking up some color, what I like to do is to add some whole pieces of garlic. I want to treat the garlic almost as if they were potatoes. Remember, this dish is going to cook inside this pot for about 2 hours. And over a long period of time, this garlic will have released all of its flavor into the stew. And by the time a piece of this will end up in your mouth, it will totally melt. Wonderful, sweet, excellent. The next thing that I like to do is to add some bay leaves, a little bit of rosemary. I have a lot of this growing in my garden at home. My wife has given me a gorgeous garden. I'm always going in there to picking up the rosemary. So you cook this attentively. And the last thing is basil. Now there are two ways of doing the basil. One is to chop them finely, to do a chiffonade, to chop them finely. I remember my grandma telling me, Nicolino, guarda, si fa così, eh? Si mette un pochettino alla volta dentro. You don't know this, but I'm actually putting on a Venetian accent. There was a mini mini mo that my grandma used to teach me when I was a little boy, and it used to be something like this. Risi bisi mortadei, tutti quanti e porsei, fora che mi, fora che ti, antan, bocca al can, bocca la musla, beccia spusla. And it's amazing for a Sicilian like me to actually be able to speak Venetian dialect without an accent. There you are. At this point, we add some white wine. We want to deglaze the pan and reduce it until half of the volume of the wine has evaporated. Now, the next addition is the addition of the tomatoes. These are Italian-style peeled tomatoes. We have drained them, we have chopped them real fine, and with their juices, we're adding it now to the pot. At this point is when we want to add the meat and all the reserved juices that have accumulated with the meat. Then you want to cover everything with chicken stock. Beef stock will do just as well, not a problem. When you make this at home, at this point you have two choices. One is to bring this to a boil and reduce it to a simmer and cook it, simmer, uncover, which is what I prefer, for 30 minutes. If you want to go old-fashioned way, maintaining the volume of this, simmer it, covered. The difference is that uncovered to me has a stronger flavor in the end, and that's why I choose it. Once this has simmered for 30 minutes, what I want you to do is then to add the potatoes. Why the potatoes to be added now? We're going to add the potatoes, mix it into this mix, and then you want to continue simmering it again for another 30 minutes. After the potatoes and the meat and everything else simmer for 30 minutes, the next thing that you're going to do, we're going to add the carrots. And the carrots, we're going to add them and let them cook simmering for another 30 minutes. I want you, during the time, every 10 minutes, to stir the meat gently around. What you want to prevent is for the meat to stick to the bottom of the pan. If that was to happen, there would be a problem because it would change the flavor of everything. Lastly, after the carrots have cooked for 30 minutes. We add the peas. Frozen peas are fine, not a problem. And you let these guys cook for another 30 minutes. The beef stew is finished. The last thing I want to do is to take out the bay leaves. It's important that you do this because they give a lot of flavor to the dish, but they're not good to be chewed on in the midst of something. Your guest might be upset. Right before I serve it, I like to add a little bit of chopped parsley and then give this one last stir. And the parsley will give it great color, but also a wonderful addition of flavor. Then I like to serve this in a big pasta bowl. I almost think of this as a pasta dish in a certain way. You'll see why. Build it up nice and big right on top. Create a big mound of it. Trust me when I tell you, this is barely enough. People love to see this coming nice and steamy. The last thing that I want to do is the adding of the polenta. Let's take a moment to take a look at the polenta. This is the polenta that I made for you before with my grandma's recipe. We poured it into the vessel and we let it cool off. Once it's cooled off, we have cut it in small triangles, and then what I've done in extra light olive oil, I cooked them until they picked up a nice bit of browning. Now we're going to add them to the dish, and this is how I like to do it. A little bit here, and a little bit here, just like this. And this is Grandma's beef stew with Grandma's polenta.
Next, Nick shows us how to prepare ossobuco.
Ossobuco. Ossobuco is the Italian word for veal shank. If you think about it, veal shank is still part of the grasp of the cucina povera. It is the lesser cut of the animal. Yet, cooked in this particular technique, it brings out a flavor as you've never seen it before. Have you seen what a veal shank looks like? Come with me. This is the way you would see it when you find it at the store. Now, I want to turn it around because I want to show you some things. All these pieces of meat are ready to fall right off the bone. So in order to ensure that this particular dish is perfect all the way through once it's cooked, we need to tie it. Tying it is of extreme importance. If you don't do it, and by the way, it's just a simple knot. It takes nothing to do it. But if you don't tie it, this thing will fall apart when it cooks in there. Now that's a problem because the flavor is still going to be fantastic. But if you want to have a nice looking piece, you have to do that. There are two things that we need to do to this. One is to put some flavor into it. The beginning of the flavor always comes with an abundant amount of salt that you want to do on all sides and on top and on the bottom. The reason why is because the salt is going to give the meat. The meat is very thick, so we want to make sure that there is plenty that goes all the way in. And also at this point, a little bit of pepper. Then, to ensure that it browns perfectly, what we want to do is to actually get this into some flour. This is where things get slightly complicated. I have the, well, yeah, complicated. I say, so to speak, but I want you to understand what could go wrong if you don't pay attention to this detail. The pan has extra light olive oil, which is really now cranking with very high heat. The way in which I like to do it is to take the whole piece, put it on the bottom, then on the top, then round it. You notice that I'm using a flat plate. More often than not, you see people just putting it in the, then unless you do this and you shake off the excess, what will happen is this little bit of flour that we have in here is going to end up at the bottom of the pan. And because of the fact that we're using high heat as we're trying to sear this, the flour will burn. And when the flour burns, it really completely ruins the taste of this whole dish. So this little patting that you see me do is of extreme importance. I'm going to do the same thing with this piece, and I want the sides as well as the top and the bottom taken care of. And then a little bit, as if it was a little baby. Now, let's check and see if the olive oil is nice and hot. How do we do that? What I do, I always bring with me a little bit of extra flour. Ooh, look at that baby. It's ready to go. So let's go. Once it browns on one side, you want to turn it and make sure that you sear the other side. So here we go. This is the color that you're looking for. As the meat is cooking in there, a lot of its natural juices are going straight at the bottom of the pan because of the high heat that we have underneath. They're coagulating and they're reducing, becoming darker and getting stuck to the bottom of the pan. we're going to use the other ingredients to lift them back into the sauce. Let me show you how. First and foremost, take the meat at this point and move it aside. And we're going to continue with the making of what's known as the mirepoix. It's a beautiful French name, but in Italian we call the addition of the onion, the carrot, and the celery, il soffritto. Soffritto, or mirepoix, as I said in French, is at the base of everything. As we stir this about, one of the things that you'll notice is that they slightly pick up a darker color. This is the juice of the meat and all the wonderful bits of flavor from the salt, even the flour, they're getting incorporated into this mirepoix. This mirepoix is at the base of the sauce that ultimately will be served together with the meat, which is going to create for you an astonishing, astonishing taste. But you must be very careful as you do this. You don't want to burn it. Once you cook the mirepoix for a few minutes or so, the next thing that you want to do is to add the mushroom. White button mushroom will do. If you don't have white button mushroom, you can also do shiitake. It's a wonderful addition. Stir it attentively. Then we go with garlic. I put it whole. The reason why I put it whole is because this is going to cook in the oven for quite some time, between 2–2.5 hours, depending on how many pieces you cook. In that process, the garlic will basically melt right into the sauce. If a piece of garlic should end up in your mouth, it's going to be like a wonderful chocolate candy melting away, but of course tasting like garlic. And what a sweet taste of garlic that is. Then we add the spices. I want to put 2 bay leaves and 2 cloves. This is going to give a real base to a sauce. Deglaze everything with the wine and cook it until it reduces by half. At this point, we take the meat and any juices that have accumulated, and we add it back into the pot. To this, we add beef stock, and it has to be beef stock. You want this wonderful flavor to come out. If you happen to have veal stock, if you're lucky enough to have that, then add that. And then tomato sauce. Then the last bit of flavor that I want to add is porcini mushrooms. These are dry porcini mushrooms that we have revived in some hot water. You can also do in some hot stock. We have let them revive in the water for about 25–30 minutes. Then we have gotten rid of the excess water because it's full of grit, and we're going to add these pieces back into this flow. We have the oven behind me preheated at 375 degrees. I'm going to stir this for a moment. I'm going to cover this with foil. The foil is to give us the opportunity to maintain everything in. I'm going to turn this off. When you do this at home and you're going to put the foil, make sure that you turn the flame from underneath. I'm going to put the foil right on top of it, and I'm going to put this back in the oven, and I'm going to cook it in the oven for about an hour and a half. Make sure that what you do use is a pot that can actually take the heat of the oven, because if you have one that doesn't, you will ruin it. And then when we come out, I'll show you exactly what we need to do. What we've done, as you've seen, when I added the foil, we cooked the meat for about an hour and a half. Then we've taken the foil off. We cook the meat for another hour. Then what I like to do is to take the meat out and let it rest and make sure that you take out the string. That's not a good ingredient. Now, what I've done, I've moved the meat aside. I've chosen the piece that I love the most, and I want to finish up the sauce. I'm reducing the sauce attentively, and I'm going to finish it up with just a little bit of butter. And as we put the butter is going to do nothing more than give it a gloss. On this other pot right here in front of me, we have grandma's polenta. I want to show you a different way on how to use grandma polenta. This one is where you want to do it right before you serve it. You don't want to do it way ahead of time, because once it's cooled, remember, it does harden up. So we have all the elements in here, the sauce, the polenta, the meat. We're pretty much ready to go. Let's get it plated, and let me show you how. This is the meat, the way in which the meat has come together. I placed it here because I want to show you how much it will shrink. If you did not have the string through the cooking process, all of this would fall apart. The bone has great marrow on the inside. This is a delicacy for most people. Let me show you my idea on how I would like to actually plate this. Here we go. First and foremost, we're going to use grandma's polenta. I'm going to build a base right at the middle of the plate, just like this, on which we're going to rest the meat. Once this is done, very attentively, and that's why I like to use this instrument, we're going to place the meat right on top of it, just like this. Then, using my favorite sauce spoon, we're going to pour the sauce right on top of it, just like this. And here we go. Look at that. This is nice and thick. You can make this looser if you want to, but I love the thickness that it does have. It's fabulous. It's full of flavor. This is one of those dishes that comes fall, you're going to absolutely love and adore. If you want to add a few more things to kind of give it more character, high-end extra virgin olive oil is a wonderful pour to do at this point. Maybe a little bit of chopped parsley. But when I make it for myself, it is so pure, I like it exactly like this. It is so tender, it will melt in your mouth. Ossobuco with polenta della nonna. Bellissimo. To make tomato sauce, we start by blending your favorite brand of Italian-style peeled tomatoes in a blender. Add extra virgin olive oil to your favorite saucepan. Add a pinch of red pepper flakes. Add some pieces of thickly sliced garlic. Cook it less than a minute, just so that it starts to brown. Then, add a little bit of chopped white onions. Add some fresh basil, reduce the heat to medium, and let it cook, stirring well, for about 3 to 4 minutes until the onions become translucent. Ah, that smells great. I love it. Salt, some pepper, and just a little pinch of sugar too. We add the tomatoes that we blended before. Use the spoon to break the fall so it will not splash back. Stir well, bring this to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, lower the heat down to a simmer and cook it on a simmer for 35-40 minutes. The sauce has reduced to the perfect consistency. Before you place it in the refrigerator, make sure that the sauce comes down to room temperature, otherwise it will become sour. And this is how you make tomato sauce.
Next, Nick shows us how to prepare strawberries in balsamic vinegar.
First and foremost, I want to show you how to cut the strawberry in quarters. Very simple. I cut the bottom off. This is to make it quite fast, and then you just cut it in quarters just like this. Very easy to make. I'll make another one. The bottom. A paring knife is what I prefer to use because the paring knife is small and it fits the size of the strawberry. So enough done with this. Let's talk about the secret. The secret of this is in the balsamic vinegar. Balsamic vinegar is the only vinegar that you can choose. What it does, it mingles together with the juices from the strawberries and a chemical reaction takes place. But there's one ingredient that we really need to use that transforms everything into a dessert, and that is sugar. When we add the sugar together with the strawberries and the balsamic vinegar, there is a sauce. It becomes made in front of you just from the moment that you see it. You see the glossiness that there is delightful. I like to chop my mint very, very, very fine. Right before your guests arrive, let it relax in the refrigerator for about 20-30 minutes, and you will notice the glossiness that the sauce will have. And then you measure how much of the sauce you want to add. What we've done, we have served it, as you can see right here, in champagne glasses. This is Grandma's Dorothy champagne glasses, which we love. A friend of mine loaned them to me today. I also want to show you another thing that we can do. We've taken the ice cream. We made some balls with the ice cream, and we placed them in the freezer. I want to show you this because it's very important to be